It's time to sound off. Now, here's Greg Pregent and Chris Coates.
10:08 here this morning in hour number 2 on Sound Off with Chris Coates and myself, Greg Pregent, here on AM 1290 and FM 107.5 and Wkbk Radio.com. Sitting in for Chris here this week, Dale Pregent, ex-mayor and city councilor. And again, thank you so much, Dad, for coming in and joining me here this morning.
Thank you for inviting me. I love to be on the radio.
All right, transparency there. He is my dad. And I want to thank you this morning for joining us. The program brought to you by Elm City Bagels and Deli. Bagels, soups, and salads, lunch goodies, platters, gluten-free options are on West Street in Keene, right across from the Colony Mill Marketplace. And also, too, they got the blue umbrella patios going on out there, so you can enjoy your breakfast or lunch outside.
A lot of people there this morning when I came by. It's very busy.
I would imagine.
You're advertising.
Thank you very much. And again, 357-1290 or email us at gpregent@wkbkradio.com. Coming up a little later on in the program, we'll have open phone times 11 to 12. This hour, we are joined by Mindy Cambiar from the 100 Night Shelter. And thank you very much for coming in here this morning.
Thanks for asking me.
All right, excellent. Now, we do have a phone call right off the bat.
Just hung up.
They do? Okay, so they dropped in. So we'll continue we'll start our conversation with you. I didn't want to get into that unless they had something else they wanted to talk about. But again, thank you very much for coming in. I know I took you from an event going on this morning, and you took some time, and I want to thank you. And quickly, the event that I took you away from this morning is through NBT Bank.
NBT Bank on West Street. They're having a Community Appreciation Day with free document shredding. They have a giant shredding truck there, and people can bring all of their documents that need shredding, and they're asking people to make a donation of either financial support or to bring in an item for 100 nights to use, like laundry detergent.
Excellent. And where exactly is the NBT Bank?
It is on West Street in the same building as the Moses House Quilt Shop.
Okay. All right, so that
sort
is
of next to Hannaford's Plaza.
Okay, all right, very good then. First of all, before we get into too much of the discussion, I want to kind of go just quickly on, the history of the 100 Night Shelter, and maybe, you can let people know kind of how it started. I know Don Primrose was kind of the gentleman who started it, but maybe you can give us a little synopsis on how it got going and kind of a little bit to a point of where you are right now.
Sure. I know Don was the founder, and he had gotten the idea in his head because he had spent a lot of time downtown talking to people that there was a need for an emergency cold weather shelter. Because the other shelters in town run by Southwest Community Services were either too full to take people in, or they were not eligible to be in the shelters.
Okay.
So he started the whole thing, and it was a wonderful thing that he did. He found a space, he renovated it with help from many, many volunteers, and now it is a 26-bed facility, open during the winter season to provide shelter for people who don't have someplace else to go.
And, and it's kind of interesting, too, I don't know if a lot of folks realize it, but you are now occupying the space that was the old WKBK studios.
That's true, and I have to say that the most interesting part about that is that we often have internet troubles, and I often wonder if the wiring in the building is the cause for that. And the second most interesting thing about that space is the old bathrooms.
Sure.
Because they have bumper stickers from all kinds of things all over the walls.
Is that what Dan did with all the bumper stickers he got years ago when he was working over there?
Makes for interesting reading.
Yeah. Well, that's great. So now, you guys have you kind of founded in 2010, right? That
2010.
was 2010. So you've been there for 4 years, and it's evolved to the point where it is now. Because when it first started, you didn't have 26 beds. It was smaller, right? It was just on one floor?
It was smaller, and it was on the first floor,
Right.
not in the KBK studios.
Right.
And but that was only for the first season. And the second season, they actually, Don and crew, a whole lot of volunteers, Death Chambers, one of them, got together and raised money and awareness and had to put in a sprinkler system upstairs in the building in order to move the shelter upstairs. And
Okay.
that they got news that the shelter could open that season literally on the day that they were hoping to open.
Wow,
So
okay,
that
well,
was good.
that's great. And so with 26, you got 26 beds there. Now, does that change necessarily with the seasons? Do you try and take more people in the winter rather than the summer, so to speak, because the need is more? Or is that more or less a fairly constant number?
So 26 beds is what the space is approved for by the Keene City Fire Department.
Mm-hmm.
And
So you can't have any more than that.
Right.
Right.
And we are only open in the cold weather.
Okay.
So the shelter is actually not open as a shelter during the summertime.
Oh, okay. I see now. There you go. See, there's some good education.